So, now it's February, and you're finding that your language learning goals are starting to fall apart a little bit. You know that you still want to keep on learning that language, but you don't know where to go from here. If you feel a little lost with your language learning, you might benefit from setting some SMART goals for your language learning. So, what are SMART goals? SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. What this means is that you're trying to establish a goal that matters to you, that is clearly defined, is something that you can do, and you've set a specific time frame for doing it. So the first thing you to do is decide on what it is you want to do. It's easy to say things like, oh, I want to improve my English, but what does that mean? Pick a goal that has a clear start and finish to it, or something that's easy to define. And don't feel like you have to have a huge goal to start off with. It is okay if you just want to say something like, I want to read a book in my target language. That's totally fine. The next thing to do is to make sure that your goal is measurable. How are you going to know whether you've actually met that goal or not? Is it the number of meetings that you've attended where you can speak the target language? Is it the number of courses that you've taken? Is it the number of mistakes you're not making in class anymore? Attaching a number to something makes it real, which definitely helps. The next thing to do is make sure that your goal is achievable. Like, don't try to jump from having no French at all to having a C level in 6 months. Even if you're living in France and only speaking in French, it's highly unlikely that it's going to happen. So make sure that it's something that you can actually do, and make sure that the goal is actually relevant to you. Is this something you want to do, or is this something that somebody else is making you feel like you should want to do? If that's the case, you might want to re-examine whether this is actually a goal that you can achieve, or if it's something that really matters enough in your life. And finally, and this is the most important point, make sure that your goal is something that is actually something you can do in a specific period of time. When do you need to have this done by? If you can't define when you need to have it done by, there's a bigger chance that you're not going to reach that goal at all, because the end point will just be like, sometime. So here's how you carry all this out. The first thing is take a piece of paper and actually write the letters SMART down the side of the paper, and write a specific description for each one of those letters about how you're going to achieve that goal. So for example, I will sit the DELF exam in June 2027 and I will achieve the B2 level. We've got specific, we've got the time we're going to do it in, it's measurable, it's something I can achieve. And the most important point is to be as detailed as possible with each one of those points, so you can set out what it is you actually want to do. So from what I've seen with a lot of language learners, one of the problems is that they might have 2 or 3 of those letters clear, or they might have a really good idea of how, what time they want to do it in, but they don't know what the specific goal is. They just have this general idea of, oh, I want to improve my English. But it's really important to be as specific with every single one of those points as possible, because if you're not, it's like going on a road trip or going on a holiday, but you don't really have a destination in mind. You're just driving all around a lot, and any destination will do. If that happens, one thing you can do is focus on defining the specific thing until you have it clear in your own mind. And that might mean having to write 3 or 4 versions of it, but it helps clarify things in your own mind so that you know that you're doing the right work. So, what happens after you set your goal? This is where the planning phase of everything starts. Let's start from the end, the time bound, the T. Now that you've defined when you need to have this done by, how will you break up the time to study and practice? We'll actually look at this at a video later on this week. Okay. Next, let's look at relevant. Plan ways of reminding yourself of why this goal is important and relevant to you, and put little reminders in your calendar on a weekly basis to keep yourself motivated to understand, okay, this is why, this is what's keeping me going with this. Achievable. What happens if you find that you've set a goal that you can't achieve in that time that you've set out? Will you increase the number of times that you practice in a week? Will you set a more achievable goal for yourself? It's not a bad idea to go back and look at the achievable part and say, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I need to refine what it is I want to do. Measurable. With something like an exam, this is an easy thing to define. You either sit the exam or you don't. You pass the exam or you don't. But if you don't have a goal that's quite as easy to define, you might need to get a little creative about how you make those measurements and create those measurements. So, for example, is it going to be the number of courses that you take? If you're a Canadian civil servant, is it the number of times that you don't use English in a meeting with Anglophones and Francophones? Is it seeing fewer mistakes when you speak in class and you get that corrective feedback from your teacher? If you're not sure, pick one measurement and stick with it and see if it works. And if not, you can always redefine the goal or just find a new way of measuring it to see how it works. But all this only works if your goal is specific. Don't just do random things because you think you should be doing these random things. Like that earlier example that we were talking about with the car. If you don't know where you're going, any destination will do. And that brings me to my next point. It is okay not to have a goal. And it is okay not to chase after something like a language exam or taking courses if you don't have a specific reason to. Like maybe you like riding bikes, but that doesn't mean you have to do the Tour de France. Maybe you enjoy figure skating, but that doesn't mean you're going to go for an Olympic medal. Believe me, there are already so many sources of stress and anxiety and busyness in the world that if you choose not to do something like an exam or taking courses, that's totally okay if you just want to stay where you are. And as always, if you have any questions or any comments, don't hesitate to get in touch. I can be reached via email at detour2learning@gmail.com or via Instagram at the handle @yourlangteacher. Thanks very much and talk to you soon.